Good morning, everybody. We got the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the clouds early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's bright glare, the most bursting in air, gave proof through the night that a flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and all of the brave?
Ambazonia, land of freedom, usually reflects in its in our need. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, usually reflects in its in our need. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation.
So anyway, way over on my right, to your left, we have Paul Morin from Drake. Drake, and he's a member of the Great Old Technical High School Committee. You're the chairman?
Chairman now, yeah.
Yeah. And between us is Fru Kembang, who ran for Great Old Technical High School Committee.
Did you run for Great Old? You did.
And he's here because he wants to talk about what's going on in Cameroon and Africa. Of course, Paul Morin's here from Drake, and not from Cameroon. And but we have between us Fru Kembang, who wants to talk about what's going on in Cameroon. And so I was lucky enough to talk to a member of the U.S. Diplomatic Service in Cameroon, and he gave me a couple of points, things that I didn't realize. I thought of Cameroon as a Francophone country, a former French colony, but it turns out 2 of the 11 provinces, they speak English and have common law, as opposed to those poor people on the French-speaking side where they have civil law. And I think that's a good way to talk about how things unraveled last October. So, Fru, you want to give us, first of all, you immigrated from Cameroon to the United States?
Yes.
So it wasn't your parents dragging you along? You made the choice yourself?
I made the choice. I came here. While in Cameroon, I applied to attend Roxbury Community College. I got my admission in Cameroon.
Very good.
Then I flew into Boston. It was like going to space, because that was my first time coming to an area where it has snow. So from Boston, I came up to Lowell. Attended Roxbury Community College for 1 year. Then I transferred to University of Lowell. So I had my bachelor's in economics with a minor in computer information, in MIS. Then I had my master's at Revere College in Nashua.
Very good.
So I
Revere is a very nice school.
I took a management program, non-profit management program at BU, Boston University.
So, you're married, have kids?
I have, yes, I am married to my beautiful wife, Ken Kimbeng, and I have 4 kids. The first is my daughter, Manka Kimbeng. She's a graduate of UMass Amherst, then had her master's in public health at Boston University.
Okay.
She's doing a PhD at Johns Hopkins now.
Oh, now that's impressive.
Yeah. Then my son, Inde Kimbeng, he a graduate of Lowell High. Then he's a senior at WPI. Currently, he's in Namibia. Yes, I have my son, Anye Kimbeng, who was the class president at Lowell High last year. He's now a freshman at Suffolk University in Boston. And my last son is Fru Kimbeng Jr. He goes to Defense School in Concord.
So, you must have searched far and wide to get a wife whose name was Kim, so she could be Kim Kimbang.
Well,
or did you just luck out?
Well, it's Ken.
Oh,
Ken. She's also from Cameroon. K-H-I-E-N.
Okay.
Yes. Ken.
So we have someone new. I want to get back to what Fru's saying, but welcome, and who are you?
My name is Rich Cowan. I'm a parent in Drakehead and a little bit of an activist in Drakehead, trying to bring up the issues of education. I don't want to interrupt you guys in the middle of what you're doing, but I will have something to say a little bit later on.
We're talking about Cameroon, and it's got 11 provinces, like states.
10.
And 2 of them are Anglophone. They speak English, and the rest speak French. And when Cameroon became an independent nation, the English-speaking groups, there was a referendum. They could have gone with Nigeria, and they lucked out and didn't. So, but now there's a problem. How do you see the problem?
Well, a little bit of history. Cameroon was one country under the Germans. But when the Germans were defeated in the First World War, Cameroon was put under the trusteeship of I believe the League of Nations, and then administered by the French and the English. So in 1961, the French side got its independence in 1960. Then the English side got its independence in 1961. So a good point to understand is these are 2 independent nations. So in 1961, there was only an option for the English Cameroon to join Nigeria or to join the French Cameroon. So the English Cameroon opted to join the French Cameroon under equal status. So they formed the Federal Republic of Cameroon with 2 independent states that the English state will, and the Constitution stipulated that under no circumstances would the system be changed from a federal to any other system. But when, after independence, since the larger Cameroon is the French, and then the smaller part is the English, they conducted an election, a referendum, to change the name of the Cameroon, and knowing full well that a referendum will grant more power to the French side because they are they are the majority. So the election supposedly went through, and then it became the United Republic of Cameroon. So from that point, they have changed they have violated the terms from a federal republic to a united republic. So when it became the United Republic, the English side has been marginalized all through. You could not believe that if you are a lawyer that went to school in England and did English, then they want you now to do everything in French. So to fast forward, this has been going on for so many years. It's 56 years now. So last December, the lawyers said, no, this is not possible. Our system is the common law, while the French system is civil law. So we have to practice in English. But they were bringing French lawyers over to the English side to administer law, which they don't understand the language, and the people who don't understand English. So the teachers too went on, they were asking that we don't want French-speaking teachers to come over and to the English-speaking side and teach English. That's impossible. So they have been asking the government to address this situation. The government has not made any efforts. Instead, the government is using force to implement the French system and actually extinguish the English system. So the lawyers and the teachers, they went on strike. And since November till today, there's not been any school in the English side. And because of what all this has been going on peacefully, and it's the first time in Africa that people have risen peacefully and demanding for their rights, human rights. So the government sent the gendarmes and the army to arrest, and so many people were killed. So since the images were going out around the world, it infuriated the government to cut internet in that part of the world. So right now it's total blackout. And to fast forward again, I personally really feel that this situation is very important to the people of Lowell, because in 2002, specifically November 5th, 2002, we established a sister city relationship between Bamenda, which is the capital, one of the largest, the third largest city in Cameroon, and the city of Lowell. So Lowell and Bamenda have sister city relationship. So this is where I feel that something like this, I should be able to inform the people in Lowell, since I consider Lowell is my home and I'm part of Lowell, that we just bring it to the attention of the people of Lowell what is going on over there. If we recall very well, in the 90s, there was a genocide in Rwanda, and almost 1 million people were killed. And that genocide went that far because people were not informed. And you read the UN report on that, said that it could have been prevented if the information was out there to the world. So that is why I take this opportunity that John has invited me to sit here with you and talk to my fellow Lowellians, just to bring them up to speed as to what is going on in Cameroon. Recently, people are being killed. They are being in prison. Could you imagine that a Supreme Court judge was arrested just for protesting, and he's in jail now? But the good news is, I think the UN, he was released forcefully, asked the UN intervene, and he was released recently.
So I understand Canada is trying to mediate this problem, Canada having its own problem with a bilingual nation, with Quebec speaking French, and having demanded its independence back, maybe that was even before you were born, but it was a while ago. And it was ugly. There was terrorism, bombings, and all. But have you heard anything about the Canadians trying to mediate this problem?
I've not heard. That's really good news to me, because a country like Canada would have all good reasons to be able to act as a mediator, because they are in the same situation. They have the English speaking and then the French speaking, but the difference with Canada is that the majority is the English speaking, while the minority is the French speaking. And according to my knowledge of history, it's very, very possible that it could happen in Canada, because the English system is quite more, I can say, the approach to solving problem is much more different than the French system. Since the French is the majority in Cameroon and everything is controlled from France, it's very, very difficult that they can work it out. But I pray that it should. But one thing I want to mention again is that the English part of Cameroon is 20% of the population, but 60% of the GDP comes from the English part of Cameroon. And no minister, no president for 56 years has come from the English part of Cameroon. So that really shows the marginalization, the injustice that is going on.
So you said that France has influence in Cameroon, and they're going to have an election here on the 23rd of April, I think. And it won't decide anything because I'll have to have a runoff in May. But will the outcome of the election in France have any indirect influence on what's going on in Cameroon today?
It cannot have, but I think the only way that the West can understand that is that it may be difficult to believe this, but that Cameroon can survive without France. France cannot survive without Cameroon. The fact that most of the natural resources come from Cameroon, and since most of the natural resources come from the English side, and the French cannot allow that to happen, because it will be like you are biting the finger that fits you, and it will be a ripple effect, because if you look any other African, French Francophone country in Africa, they are not independent, because France decides everything, even right up to the money that they carry. The money is France CFA, that is Franc Colonial Franc Area. Means that money is minted in France and just administered. So every decision comes from France. The raw materials, everything, like in Cameroon, there are certain raw materials that Cameroon doesn't even have jurisdiction over it. If they have to find a market, they have, unless the French government doesn't want to do that before they can go somewhere else.
I got the map up just so people, low aliens, know what Cameroon is. And I was talking to a guy, he thought it was South America. And I says, no, it's actually south of Europe.
Central Africa.
So just so you know where it is. And pretty much landlocked there, buddy. You got some beach right here, but other than that, pretty much landlocked.
You can point the English part of Cameroon, that's that hunch, a little bit down the coast.
Right here?
Up.
Up?
Right, that's the English part of Cameroon, close to Nigeria. That's where you have most of the natural resources, oil and everything. Yes.
Not safe there.
Yeah, before we go off this map, I was reading in the news that people who are fleeing other countries in Africa, who are going through Libya trying to get to Europe, are finding themselves being held captive in Libya, and Libya now has a slave market. Are there any people from Cameroon fleeing north into Libya?
Well,
Libya's pretty far, Cliff.
Libya is right up there.
Yeah.
Right up. You have to go through the desert. All that area is desert, but I don't think I cannot really speak to that. Where the cursor is, that's Bamenda.
Okay.
That's the capital city of the English part that had a sister city relation with Lowell.
Over the satellite just so we can see some buildings there.
Well,
Just to
So
see how
that's a
dense-
pretty big city.
oh yes, it's the third biggest city in Cameroon.
just to see how densely populated it is. Now, these highways we're seeing here,
Yes, yes.
so like 495 highways or
Yeah.
110 highways?
Yes.
Okay, back to you guys.
So my understanding is the lawyers coming from the English common law put on their wigs and their robes and went out into the, I have to get a little more friendly
No,
here.
you're good, Cliff. You're on the screen. Doesn't look like you are, but you are.
But they put on their wigs and their robes and they went out in the streets and demonstrated. So this is a little unusual, I think, for, you find lawyers out demonstrating. That, and you say the police intervened and were excess use of force? Did you say?
Yeah, you know, the one part of any nation that you can really touch is the legal system. And when you touch the men in robes, who are the custodians of the law, it shows that you have gone too far. Because when the people saw the lawyers being beaten by the army, they were demonstrating peacefully. After years of putting their demands to the government, and it came to this point, they resorted to peacefully demonstrate and for their rights, which is very different from the French system.
Yeah, and I have to admit that I'm an Anglophone. The English system over the French system works for me. The way that we slowly evolved the rights of Englishmen, which is the rights of Americans, the rights of Cameroonians over the centuries from, well, the Magna Carta in 1215. So I always think that's an important thing.
So, where are people getting killed in Cameroon? Where are people being murdered?
I have friends, schoolmates, family members who some of them were killed and some are in jail. But right now, what the government does is they will spot if they see that you're an activist. They will.
So you're an activist, and then what happens? You
Right.
get arrested?
At night, they come and pick you up from the English side and overnight drive you up over to Yaoundé, which is the capital, which in the French side. Then the brutality begins. So it is horrible. So
Living in fear, right?
living in fear, and the mere fact that the internet is cut from that part of the country. If the country has 10 regions, 10 states, and only the internet is cut only in the 2 states, the other 8 states, nothing is happening. Everything's life is normal. It just shows that these are 2 countries. But like I said, these were 2 independent countries. The French part never defeated the English part in war, no. They voted, the English part voted to join. So, yeah.
Is there a chance of secession, do you think?
Well,
Are people advocating that?
well, when they
Breaking
say
away?
when they say breaking away from the English part of Cameroon, we feel that it is the French part that broke away, because the name, to begin with, the name of the English part of Cameroon was Southern Cameroon. The name of the French part of Cameroon was Republic of Cameroon. So the 2 countries came together and formed the Federal Republic of Cameroon, and the map has 2 stars indicating those states. Then, because the French Cameroon is bigger, they manipulated it and changed the name to United Republic of Cameroon. And then from the United Republic of Cameroon, the current president unilaterally changed the name to Republic of Cameroon. means you see that they are the one who broke that agreement. So if someone said that they are seceding, Cameroon is the English Southern Cameroon is just saying that you are the one who went back and changed the name of the country to Republic of Cameroon. That was the French Cameroon. Means you don't want the English Cameroon to exist. So in that aspect, you broke the union, and the best way for us is after 56 years, it has proven that it cannot work. Then we are up to, we can become a state.
So this is the president here, this Paul Biya?
That's Paul Biya, that's the president, and he took over. The first president was Francophone.
We're liking this guy, we're liking this guy.
Hmm?
We're not liking this guy? Oh, we're liking this guy.
This guy has been in the government since 1957. He
I
was
understand, but the question is, we're liking this guy or we don't like this guy?
The Cameroonians don't like this guy because he spent 75% of his time in France.
Okay.
Ever since this problem has been going on, he has not addressed the nation.
When's the next election?
You know, there's a joke that we say in Cameroon that in America, when Americans conduct their elections, they don't know who will become president. But in Cameroon, we know the president before we go and vote.
And the internet says that he's been in power since
he's staying.
1982?
That's when he became president, since 1982. Yes.
That's quite a
there-
while.
He's one of Africa's most entrenched leaders. And Cameroon's parliament, since 2008, passed a controversial amendment to constitution will enable this guy to run for a third term.
Okay, and even if you see that
And that's in 2011, so that's 7 years, 6 years ago.
if you mention that the city of Lowell, actually, I have a proclamation that day because of our relationship that they condemned. They didn't want that. They actually sent a resolution
Yeah.
condemning the changing of the constitution. Yeah, this is it.
So how many people has this guy killed in your
You see, that's the sister.
estimation?
In my estimation, you mean during this current uprising?
In his lifetime.
Well, I would say,
Since this guy came to power in 1982.
I would say at least 50,000.
Wow.
At least 50,000.
So the U.S. Department of State, when John Kerry was the secretary, issued a statement it was 28 November of last year, and the headline was, Cameroon call for restraint, concern over human rights and fundamental freedoms. And the first paragraph starts out, the United States is deeply concerned by the loss of life, injuries, and damage as a result of protests that turned violent in Bamenda and Bui. My French is not very good.
Yeah.
Bui.
Boya. Those are the
And-
two English-speaking parts.
The respective capitals of Cameroon's northwestern and southwestern regions. We call on all parties, et cetera, et cetera. Then the last paragraph says, the Constitution of Cameroon guarantees freedoms of expression, association, and peaceful assembly, and we believe that non-threatening rhetoric and activities, especially private conversations and gatherings, warrant neither prosecution nor government censure. So the U.S. made a statement back in November, the 28th of November, but has not made a statement since. So that's been December, January, February, March. So 4.5 months ago was our last official statement. But the U.S. government has been aware of this and paying attention, but not doing anything, except issuing a statement.
Before we turn the page on this issue, if you were king of the world, what would you do with Cameroon? If you were king of the world, anything, it's anything you want, man. You are the king of the world. What would you do?
Well, it's just to bring awareness, first of all, because if people know that there is massacre, people are dying somewhere around the world, that will actually galvanize people to do something. I will talk about this, bring this to the front, and I think that in my own little way, as a Lowellian, I would really want that the public understands, and the only, as a Cameroonian American, I think that there is we have a lot to do, because the government over there, they listen to what America says. If we can call our Congress representatives and just let them know, because a word that can be said on the floor of the Congress or Senate about Cameroon will infuriate those guys. They would think...
You think it's a waste of time to write the president? Should we write the president?
Oh, it's very, very important. That's another way getting to the higher authorities. That's how I'm saying if we get the president's ear, even if the president just mentions something, those dictators out there, that's just what they want to know, and then they will be scared. But what I'm just saying is people are dying.
Well, there are often attempts to record video and then smuggle it out on, flash drives and get it out there on YouTube and things like that. Are you aware of that going on? Because that's a way to bypass when a country clamps down and restricts the...
Oh yes, the images have been bad. Even in Britain, actually, if the British parliamentarians, they're speaking out against this, and there are actually movements at the UN also to revisit this issue and go back to see how English Cameroon can become a separate country of its own, because as we are talking about the people of about 10 million people.
So you support any type of separatist movement there at this point? It's deteriorated to that point.
It's deteriorated to that point, but it's not a separate movement like some part of the country. These were two different countries that agreed to come and maintain and live together. But the other side, the bigger side, decided that, you know what, we are going to absorb you. We are going to destroy you and make you not have an image of your own. So this little part is saying that, you know what, no, let's go back to the original agreement. We chose to meet you. You didn't beat us in war that you can lead us. We are a nation that we can stand on our own. So we are not a separatist movement. We are just going that, we're just telling you that we agreed, and the Constitution said that this partnership would be maintained and respected, the common law system and then the civil law system. But you decided to break that agreement. So as it is now, we cannot exist. We want to be a nation.
Oh, bro, I got a video here from November. It's on YouTube. Maybe this is what prompted the U.S. to make some statement.
That is Bamenda. You see, there's no gun, and the government is actually the fellow in yellow is already in jail now. They don't know his whereabouts.
That's a different one.
Yeah, that's a little...
That's South Africa,
That's
where
South Africa.
there's all sorts of unrest also.
The first
I'm
one,
going to guess Francis is going to talk all about this stuff, so I'll go back to that other one. That's the very beginning of this broadcast.
right? Yes.
This guy here,
Right. That's
he's
he's in jail right now.
so you can go and visit this guy, or we don't know where he is in jail?
He's in jail. You can, I think last week, they were brought to the military tribunal. But they found that they had nothing, they didn't commit any crime.
Okay.
But that is, the Supreme Court judge was one of those who was arrested, but he has been released because they found that he has done no crime. Like I said, We learned from the US and the British that it is the people's responsibility to go on the street peacefully and demand accountability for their leaders. But on the French side, they don't give that. Going on the street is really a no-no situation. All they can do is they bring the gendarmes to arrest and imprison and spread a reign of terror.
Okay, so because we're going to keep talking about this till the top of the hour, then we're going to change topics at 7. Is there anything we haven't talked about that we should talk about?
We are organizing a panel debate on May 11th at the LTC, which will be moderated by Dr. Memerali at UMass Lowell, and then the panelists will include Dr. John Fobanjong at UMass Dartmouth, Jerry Tabi, the chairman of the Cameroonian Social Club, and myself.
So, Cameroon, we have this cleavage, this separation between the English and the French backgrounds. How about religion? Is Cameroon pretty much all the same religion, or are there different religious groups there also? Is it Christian? Is it Muslim? Is it animist?
I think that's a very important question, and uniquely about Cameroon. In Cameroon, we have Muslims, we have Christians, and we have atheists. And you have never heard of any religious problems in Cameroon. We celebrate Easter, the whole country. We celebrate Christmas. We celebrate all the Christian holidays and also the Muslim holidays. And it will be surprising to hear that the first president was a Muslim. The prime minister was this current guy who's in power now, a Christian. And since 1982, he's ruled the country with an iron fist. So as far as religion is concerned, Cameroon is one of the most fertile place for all the religious groups.
So Boko Haram has not shown up in Cameroon capturing people and doing things like that? We haven't seen any of those terrorist groups?
Yeah, Boko Haram comes from Nigeria.
Yeah.
And that is the fear that we are saying. The government, because of what it is happening in Cameroon, they are labeling this peaceful protest as extremists and terrorists so that they can use that and destroy the movement in the West. The government will say these are Boko Haram extremists, which is quite different. As you see the demonstration, they are holding leaves. They are not holding machete, they are not holding guns. The government is the one that has the guns and killing people. But what the government is spreading now is these are Boko Haram sympathizers, which is just false.
Yeah, for people in the audience that don't know, Boko Haram is a group of people who want to reject all things Western. Somehow the name Boko Haram, I think, translates out as rejection of Western ideas. So,
and they originate in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, where they've been capturing young girls and dragging them off and doing terrorist activities, and especially, I think, in the north of Nigeria.
They captured almost 300 students. Yes. In the school, and up till today they have not been found.
So, a bad group. So, you want to wrap it up for us, since we have 3 minutes to the break. Why don't you sort of recapitulate for us the situation as you see it?
Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity, and I would say that the situation is really in dire need because people are dying. Students, schools have not resumed since November, and there is a strike 6 months now, and the civil society in the Anglophone region is really down. And we are really appealing that the world should take note of this, and we don't want this situation to degenerate and get to what happened in Rwanda, that almost millions of people were massacred and slaughtered before the world did something. So I'm just appealing that any way that anyone can help to call the elected leaders so that they can intervene and bring peace to Cameroon will be well supported. Again, we will be having a panel debate at Lowell Telecommunication on Market Street on May 11th from 7 to 8 p.m. The public is invited.
That's going to be on live? Is that going to be on TV, or they're just going to meet there and talk?
I don't think it's going to be live, but it will be, LTC will record it.
They're going to record it?
Yes.
Okay.
John, could you quickly throw up the map again, please? I hope we can get to see where Rwanda is and where Cameroon is, and talk about entry, because Rwanda is landlocked, and getting there you have to fly over other countries. Not easy.
Yeah, it's a very small, yes, it's a very small country.
So moving a lot of military forces in there to help calm things down would require going through Kenya to Uganda or through Tanzania. Whereas if you look at Cameroon, the areas that we're interested in right now are right on the water, which means you could land the Marines if you had to.
If you're not busy with wars in 5 other countries.
Yeah, if you're not busy. But there's a theory out there, and I love one of the big backers, last name is Slaughter, Anne-Marie Slaughter, called Responsibility to Protect. And that's the argument. How much responsibility do we have as Americans, as Mexicans, Canadians, to prevent slaughter in some other part of the world? And because you know, there is no free lunch out there. And one of the questions is, if you intervene, what's it going to look like after you intervene? We intervened in Libya. It's a disaster. We intervened in Iraq. Well, maybe it's going to get under control. Syria, there's all sorts of different groups vying to be in charge. But right now, Bashar al-Assad is in charge, and he doesn't mind using poison gas on his people. So there are very important issues here, and people need to think through what exactly we're going to do and what is our responsibility. Someone said the Treaty of Westphalia created in Europe and then spreading throughout the world the idea that you as a nation are independent and sovereign and nobody else should mess with what's going on in your nation. And now we have this idea of responsibility to protect, which says the rest of the world, if you're not meeting the rest of the world's standards, the rest of the world can intervene. That has not been accepted. Mainland China is not going to accept it. Russia doesn't want it applied to it, but it doesn't mind applying it to other people. So it's a contentious issue. And I think John is going to put us on a break.
flowing rivers and holy. Glory, glory, glory to the Father for making you a nation, a joy forevermore. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our need. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our need. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting